I rise today in support of H.R. 1968, the Full Year Continuing Appropriations and Extensions Act of 2025. Today's bill comes about at a critical time for this institution and this nation. As members are well aware, government funding all runs out at midnight on Friday. That means that members are faced with a stark but clear choice. Will they vote in favor of this bill and thereby keep the government open and operating, or will they vote no, thereby affirmatively choosing to shut down the government? This choice is the choice we face today. We are now nearly 5.5 months into the fiscal year 2025. Congress has previously passed 2 short-term continuing resolutions, both of which extended government funding and kept the status quo in place, ensuring the government can remain open. Today's bill is really no different than the CR passed in December. Other than the most essential and critical anomalies, it simply maintains current conditions through the end of the fiscal year. For those who supported the CR in December, you should have no qualms about voting for the same way on today's bill. There are no policy differences, no poison pills, and no reason to vote against keeping the government open and operating. A year-long CR is not how I hoped that FY 2025 appropriations process would end. The Appropriations Committee and the House did their work. Indeed, the committee reported out all 12 appropriations bills by midsummer, and the House passed 5 of those bills, covering over 70% of discretionary spending across the floor by the end of July. Sadly, despite our best efforts, we were unable to come to a final agreement on the full year appropriations bills. Although we were very close on a final dollar figure, my colleagues in the minority made additional demands that would restrict the legitimate authority of the executive in the appropriations process. These are restrictions that the minority would never accept for a Democratic president, nor are they provisions that President Trump would or should sign into law. It is deeply unfortunate and disappointing that the minority chose to make these unreasonable demands. Republicans never left the negotiating table and indeed worked diligently with Democrats to reach a bicameral, bipartisan deal. Sadly, the minority allowed their opposition to the president to cloud their judgment, giving in to a political temper tantrum rather than voting to keep the government open. That truly is the choice before us, Mr. Speaker. Today's bill is a simple, straightforward, continuing resolution, funding the government and keeping it open through September 30th. It maintains the status quo, providing flat funding for the government and including only legitimate anomalies. Importantly, this bill does not contain a single poison pill policy rider. It's a clean CR, fully funding our government. This includes our military and defense needs, and indeed we've accomplished this while also fully funding the Department of Defense, including the largest pay raise for junior enlisted personnel in over 40 years. We're also maintaining funding for other critical functions of government, including border defense, roads, parks, child care, water infrastructure projects, biomedical research, job training, and countless others. I know members have heard some fear-mongering about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. This bill makes no changes to any of these programs, leaving them intact as is, and with the funding they need to operate through the end of the fiscal year. Let me say that again. There are no changes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, period. Mr. Speaker, the outcome of the fiscal year 2025 appropriations process is not what I wanted. But at the end of the day, it is significantly better than the alternative, a government shutdown. The choice is clear. Either members will vote for this bill and for keeping the government open, or they will vote to shut the government down. I know which option my constituents expect, and I know which I will choose. I urge all my colleagues to do the same, vote for this bill, vote to keep the government open and operating. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve the balance of my time.